All right, for segment one today, we are going to continue on talking about Battlelords of the 23rd century, and we're going to continue with the combat of Battlelords of the 23rd century. That off the screen.
Whenever I hear someone say that the title of this game, I just think of Duck Dodgers. Every time.
Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century.
Yes, it just comes to my brain, just bubbles to the surface every single time.
All right, in case we forgot, the errata.
The errata for today. We got armor errata.
Okay, they're right. So let's zoom in.
Lots of armor errata.
Carb armor cost, the immune to effects of metal guns. Metal guns are weird. Generation. So yeah. By the way, if you're going to be dealing with armor, holy crap!
Yeah, you've got a lot of errata to deal with.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That is a lot. Okay.
Holy crap.
Well, I'm not reading through all of that.
Basically, an entire page.
Just know that in the next printing, in 8th edition, they're going to clean some things up, or at least in the second printing. So my goal today, and I'm saying this out loud because Heathen Dog didn't hear me say it before, but it's also for you guys. I don't want to read every word. We've got to get through this combat stuff a little better while explaining what's going on. So blame me, because we get kind of locked into the business, especially when I'm just guessing 128. Not even close.
140. 141, 142. Actual page, not PDF page. 141.
Okay. But yeah, because we did 2 hours last week on just the first part of this.
There you go.
So, all right. So armor. Now, I just out of curiosity, how much of this did you read this time?
I only looked over it. I didn't read it in depth at all.
Okay. So let me tell you the struggles that I had.
Okay.
This is a perfect game to say that you learn it by playing it. And I say that because I couldn't get through the chapter. And it's not even because the book was written badly or anything like that, the typical things you're used to hearing me say. It's just to remember, what is threshold? What is absorption? What is structural integrity? Okay, now we got to talk ECCM, ECM, and how that works. Now we got to talk about, it's like, hold on, grenades and how that works differently than, a suppression fire versus shooting wild versus the stuff we talked about last week. It's like, hold on. This is the type of stuff that I would need an experienced game master to help me as a player through. Now, could I do it as a game master? Yes, but I would do it in phases. I would do it like, okay, all of your weapons are just going to be rifles. And then now I'm going to give you a grenade. And now I'm going to give you more. It just expand upon the equipment, because that's how you're going to have to learn it until you're experienced with it. It's not that the rules are hard to understand. It's just there's a lot.
Yeah.
Every one of them is math.
That's what I got when I read over the armor rules, is there are too many mechanics.
But that's always been the case with Battlelords. So I can't blame 7th edition for that.
They decided not to fix that. But it breaks the realism if you don't have all these mechanics.
Why is Crafty such a dick?
But it's a game. Oh, that's mean.
I know, right? Crafty. Just because you pay us doesn't mean you can be a dick. Okay, yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does.
All right, let's. I got to use the Heathen Dog motto here. Yeah, it does.
Yep.
All right,
you give me money, you can do whatever you want. I am the internet.
Well, nope, not whatever you want. I have limits.
Whatever you want. There is a dollar amount that will get that to happen. I have no shame, no morals, no ethics, no convictions beyond a certain monetary price. Beyond after that point, I have no standards at all.
Okay, so with that in mind, on Battlelords of the 23rd century, so we talked last week about the hit locations and bumping and so forth. And I know bumping was such a favorite topic of ours because it was mentioned so many times before it was actually explained. But we understand hit locations. You roll a D6, that's a hit location. You roll a D8, that's a hit location or a miss, et cetera, right? And you can bump it on, bump it off, move across. I still say that the bump should start at center of mass, but you know what? Let's move on. Now we're going to talk about armor, because bullets are deadly, right? In most games you play, bullets, grenades, lasers, phasers, disruptors, blasters, they're all pretty deadly. So you're going to want to wear something that's going to protect that, preferably better than Stormtrooper armor, because that doesn't protect you from anything. No. It's just plastic underwear.
Yeah, it's made out of paper mache and toilet paper, I think.
There you go. Although so we start with the threshold rating. So the threshold rating is essentially, if your weapon does 5 points of damage and the threshold rating of the armor is 6, it just bounces off.
Right.
I guess you could say if the threshold rating is 5, it bounces off as well. You need to break the threshold rating of the armor in order to do damage. So if I'm firing and you've got an armor 3 and I've got a bullet that does 5 damage, well, guess what? 2 gets through.
Yep.
So what happens when that 2 gets through? Well, now we talk absorption. Absorption is the amount of damage that your armor will sustain to protect you. So let's say you have 20 points of absorption, and I just busted through with 2 points of damage. Well, now that 2 damage comes off the absorption. It is now down to 18.
Okay, so it's more like ablative armor at this point.
Well, ablative is reflective, but threshold rating.
Yeah, but it decreases depending on how much damage it's taken.
Yeah, yes. Think of it as hit points, like armor hit points.
Armor hit points, right? Again,
of course,
I don't think this mechanic is strictly necessary.
Fair, it is from the previous editions, though.
I understand, but it's the first overcomplication in this section.
Okay,
in my opinion.
So threshold rating. If you break the threshold rating, it doesn't degrade anything other than it gets into the absorption. Right. When you get into the absorption, that is kind of like your armor's hit points. And I know somebody's going to yell at me about that when we start talking about structural integrity. But for now, the absorption, or think of it as like SDC, from Palladium for your character. It's just it's a new layer of hit points for your character to not take damage.
Right.
Then finally, what's that?
Call it plot armor.
Plot armor. There you go.
There you go.
Next is structural integrity. Now, this means that your armor actually still is protecting a piece of your body. This is where things got overly complicated for me. You say absorption isn't needed. I say structural integrity isn't needed.
Okay.
I would wrap structural integrity into threshold rating. And I would just have threshold drop by 1 for every for the damage you take. Anything that gets...
But the whole structural integrity is the gradual, basically disintegration of the armor. Like it is losing its effectiveness.
Sure, I would just wrap it into this for simplicity's sake.
No, I mean, absorption has that mechanic. It is gradually losing its ability to cushion you from damage.
I see what you're saying.
Another thing,
because when you're repurchasing armor, I get what you're saying, and in that regard, I agree with you. But it's about purchasing new armor.
I know, but still, come on.
Yeah, okay. You know what? I won't argue that. Like I said, personally, I would still put structural integrity into threshold and essentially say your armor's gone for every point of damage, not point of damage. Every time your armor gets hit and something penetrates it, it drops the threshold rating by 1, and then when it gets to 0, it's gone. No matter how much absorption you have left. That's what I would. That's what I would do.
Can't hold together. It literally falls off your body.
But I don't want to confuse the situation here. We're just talking the rules of the game, not what we would do. So let me...
Understood. So structural integrity points represents the amount of material in the armor and how well a suit holds together as it takes damage. So that's basically it. The more damage the more significant damage that armor takes, the more likely it is to just break, to just fall off your body. And this is the mechanic for that.
So reading chat, Condor DM sounds like tracking slows combat down. When you're used to it, at least I haven't played 7th edition. I've only played previous editions. When you're used to it, it doesn't slow the game down at this point because you know right from the dice rolls what happens. Like that if you have a threshold of 5, somebody rolls 6 points of damage. It got through. Your armor takes 1 until your absorption goes down to 0. Then your physical body starts to take 1. You just know how that works. The thing is, this is a science fiction game, and a science fiction game, you're going to have phasers, blasters, microwave cannons, so on and so forth, and they have to account for all of that. The metal gun, for example, doesn't hurt physical people, but it will whoop up on your armor. Yeah. It'll strip your armor from you. So that's. You get used to it. Where it was slow as all get out in the previous editions was repurchasing your armor. What you did is you just had a photocopy of your original armor and say, how much does it cost me to remake it? Because it took longer to create your armor than your character. That's where it slowed down. But all right, everything else seems to be on another topic. So good. By the way, keep the chats going. You guys are awesome. Tab. Remember tab. Threshold absorption body points. But what about structural integrity? That's kind of an outlier. This is how it works. If it gets through your threshold, then you take it off absorption. If you have no absorption yet left, why I can't talk, then bam, it hits your body points. And now you start to take damage. And remember, people are squishy. They don't like to be hit by bullets.
No. Or laser beams or plasma cannons or whatever.
Or all of the above.
Yep.
Now, here's one of the things that I don't remember from the previous editions of the game, though it may have been there. I just don't remember it. Okay? And that comes to these damage type descriptions. And what I mean specifically are how these exceptions work. So if you read on the equipment list and your weapon says damage type A, that actually means what it ignores.
Mm-hmm.
A damage type A weapon ignores absorption. So if it breaks through, so let's use this laser right here as an example, right? Let's go back up to here. We talked before about tab. It hits threshold, then absorption, then body points. So let's say Heathen Dog shoots a laser at me, poor kitty, and the laser has a 7 damage, and my armor has 5 threshold. It's still affected by the threshold, but it is no longer affected by the absorption, no matter how much absorption's there, and my body will take 2 points of damage. This is where things will start to get clunky until you're used to it. But I have watched a couple of videos, and I've read some tweets and blog posts. This is absolutely something they want in the game, because they want something that I despise in tabletop role-playing games.
What's that?
Synergy. They want you to shoot somebody's armor to take off its threshold, so the next guy shoots the armor to take off the absorption, so the next guy shoots the armor and gets a free kill. They want that kind of mix and match of tactics and weaponry. The reason I don't like it is because it's just numbers crunching. It's just like, okay, what do you got? Okay, you fire that gun. All right, you go first. I'll go second. I go third every round. All right, let's just. I don't like that.
To be fair, I understand. I understand you're reticent on that. But to be fair, if this was made by someone who knows real combat, that's exactly what you have to do. If you see an enemy and you know the enemy's weakness, or you shoot with this gun, then this gun, and then get a kill with this gun, you would definitely do that in real life. That's
sure.
That's how you would take out that enemy. And they wanted it in this game.
Well, I now the people who created 7th edition, they're martial artists, not combatants. The guy who originally made the game was actually a combatant. Now, that's not to take anything away from anybody. I'm just clarification purposes here.
Got it. Thank you.
My problem with it is it becomes the trope of everybody does the same attacks every round. Now, you can counter that by having different armor types. Yes, I get it. But then it becomes a competition between the game master and the players of like who can outsmart whom. It's like the modern Battletech where it's like, I've got ECM, I've got ECCM, I've got a C3 computer, whatever. It's like whoever builds it properly wins. That's really my only point. I'm not saying it's a bad system. I'm saying it just turns into like, all right, you guys doing the same thing you do every round? Yep. All right, let's get it over with. I find that boring.
Okay.
So
basically what you're saying is that combat in this one is turned into a really overly complicated rock, paper, scissors.
Theoretically, yes. I won't say that as somebody who has not actually put dice on the table for this version of the game.
Okay.
But in watching the videos and in reading it, yes, I would say that. In the past, heard about the game on a podcast. It seems super complicated. Hey, Biggest Geekus, how are you doing? We're actually going to shout out your channel too. Light armor absorbs 1, medium armor absorbs 2, heavy armor absorbs 3. Yeah, I mean, Earth Dawn has an armor system where armor absorbs damage. There's literally nothing wrong with armor absorbing damage. Yeah. It's actually a great system. I think it's more realistic than hit points and armor class. But with that in mind, where do you draw the line?
How many levels of this system do you need?
Right. But that isn't this game's problem. That's a problem with all science fiction games. Where do you draw that line? All right. So damage type A, ignore absorption. We already explained what these damage types mean. Not going to go through all that before. And you got your tab. Oh, now you've got structural integrity because there are weapons that specifically attack structural integrity.
Yeah, they won't do you any damage, but they'll melt what you're wearing to goo.
Like I said, it's related to an earlier post. Okay, I missed something. I'm focusing on this. So if there's anything in chat I missed, go ahead and Heathen Dog can beat me up, or I can scroll back in a little bit. Now, here's an example of one. Damage type S, ignore armored suits. That's like your chemical attacks.
Right.
Unless you have a rebreather or something.
Yeah. If you have an environmental suit of some kind, then you're fine.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you're boned.
So the good news is, if you have a crazy, strange attack type that you've seen in a science fiction game and you try to put it in here, the system should be able to handle it.
Yes.
Even a Mutsukin doing a black hole in the center of a planet.
Yeah. There's armor for that.
There's armor for that. Yeah, I don't think it helps, but there is armor.
Not going to help, but you could try.
Repairing armor. This is one of those things that I think became, oh my God, thank you for simplifying it. Again, I don't have the rules memorized in my head. I just remember what happened while we played. I played more one-shots of this game than campaigns. And in fact, let's be honest. I played one campaign. Heathen Dog was there for it.
Yeah, there you go. I was there. Now, the repairing armor mechanic in this one is very simplified. Instead of buying a whole new armor or whatever, if you have really good armor, you can repair the structural integrity, and once the structural integrity is 100%, you get 100% of your threshold back. You can repair absorption per point. You don't have to go all the way. Like the structural integrity, you have to go all the way. You have to repair it completely to get your threshold back if it's broken. But with absorption, you can save your money.
Unless the structural integrity is down to 0, right? Then you have to buy a brand new piece, if I remember correctly.
Repair is repair. I don't see that. I don't see that in here where if it goes to 0, you have to. I know it goes to 0, it falls off. But if you pick up the pieces and you have an armor repair skill for that armor, you should be able to be good to go.
Yeah. And yeah, there's a lot of things in this game I could see people ignoring. My caution would be, if you ignore it, just think about the unintended consequences, or be ready to reverse it at some degree, because so much of this is intertwined. Like, it's just, that's the difficulty with science fiction sometimes. All right. So anyway, we've got structural integrity damage. Like, what I think is awesome in this game is that bullets really don't do much or any structural integrity damage, but a chainsaw will. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, little holes versus I just cut you in half. But you can see here, reflex missiles do 25 structural integrity. So that's going to hurt your armor a bit. All right. Why is my phone going crazy? Going to ECM, ECCM, and stealth. Look, I'm going to make this simple. These are opposed rolls. If your ECM will lower the possibility of somebody detecting you by that percentage. ECCM will bring that percentage back up to detecting you. But ECM and ECCM are different than stealth. ECM and ECCM are technological. There's a term for it in here. Actually, let me use the game term. Oh yeah, active versus passive. Those are active systems. Stealth is a passive system. So know which one you're using. That's a crazy looking Mutsukin.
Well, so he looks pretty scared. He's firing wild. Apparently he's in the shit.
Why isn't he blowing somebody up with a brain boogle?
Because he is afraid beyond the ability for rational thought.
And we will get to that later. Look at you foreshadowing. That's awesome. You should subscribe for foreshadowing. You want to put that up? Well, so we got on this little chart here, we have guided weapons. The accuracy of the guided weapons, 80%. However, with an ECM of 60%, it gets reduced to 20%. We see that right here. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Sensors active and passive, right? Well, you have an active 70%, passive 40%. So depending on how somebody is trying to break through it. And communication, signal strength. Wow, man, signal strength for communications. But again, it's a science fiction game. If you're like, hey, we need to set up a jamming towers here so they can't communicate. It's our only way of getting an advantage here. I don't want to deal with rules like that. But at the same time, how do you take that away from the players who want to use their imagination?
Easily. You're a player. I'm a game master. Get over it.
And one of those times, I think I'd have to drop out. And the examples are decent. Like, again, I'm intentionally skipping a lot of this stuff because, our 2-hour videos on just how to roll dice aren't making people happy. So get the book, read it. The examples are well done, though.
ECM versus communication, same thing. You saw it in a little chart up there. It explains there. Try. So now we get ECCM. So we already did this, but let's talk about it. Guided weapon action 80%, accuracy reduced to 60%. Why? Because you take the ECM minus ECCM. Remember before it's 20? Well, now it's 40. So you have to roll for 40% or less to succeed. Because, yeah. It's not complicated, it's just tedious.
But I believe it says in here somewhere, it's important to note that your ECCM will only counteract ECM. It won't increase your general level of success beyond what's being negated by ECM. You can't use countermeasures to blow away the countermeasures and then get more. No, it's only a protection against ECM. You can't actually get a net positive gain from that. That's the face you make the first time we see a font.
So here's a good point. The game designer worries me when you can't explain something in a very simple way. Right. We've talked about this. I said I wasn't going to do it on this video, but yes. And I think Indigo Dragon commented on that last week that they overcomplicate things.
Right.
Where I will say that the previous edition probably had more complicated rules, but way more concise.
Yeah, it was written much better.
All right, stealth systems. I'm sorry, go on.
But I haven't seen the grand cardinal mistake in writing a book yet in this book, which is the hero system mistake.
Oh, it's just saying up front.
Yeah, saying up front. Now this could seem complicated, but you're gonna get it. If you have to write that in your book, you're wrong. You've already messed up. That means it is too complicated. If you have to disclaim it, you should go back to the drawing board. I haven't seen that here yet, so that's good.
Maybe they were scared to write that. And Condor DM, there are actually decent examples in here. All these red examples, I say they're very well done. The only difference that I would have done is I wouldn't have put an example after like every paragraph. I would have waited until the end and had one grandiose example. But I should, on that one, I'd say your mileage may vary because I've seen people complain about the grandiose examples as well. So, all right.
And stealth is pretty easy. It's a
conceptually the same
that can't be countered and only works on you. There you
Boom.
go.
All right. So now weapon rules, kinetic weapons. They do not damage heavy armor or flux shields. Do you know what heavy armor and flux shields are yet?
Nope.
I didn't think so.
Isn't that great?
So yeah, that's awesome. But it is an important point to make.
And for those of you who don't know, this book has a real bad track record of giving you terms that it hasn't taught you yet, and expecting that to explain something. Doesn't.
There you go. That answers it all right there. This is where when reading through this chapter started to lose me. Conceptually, I get it. It's again using the Earth Dawn example because Heathen Dog and I both know it. Windlings can't carry two-hand swords, and trolls can't handle windling daggers.
No.
But really, I have to memorize a chart to figure out exactly. Look, the weapon's made your size. Can we just freaking move on? It's one of those things that they had to put in the game. Again, science fiction, but God, for the love of God, and you need an example. Okay. Spray fire. Spray fire it's not as, I don't want to say it's not as wonky, that's my technical term, as the Palladium system of spray fire. What I do like about it is you pick an area and like how much angle you want to shoot. So let's say you want to shoot these three lizard people right here, apparently rams, I'm guessing. You want to shoot these or two of these three rams. Well, if your buddy ram is still in the way, you have to still assign at least one bullet to your buddy ram. And then you roll to hit across the board. It's one roll. So they just simplify that. But you can't say, it's not like having shatter on smart weapons where you go fire, no fire, fire. It's like, no, you have to fire. Now you could choose, if you're firing, 6 rounds, you could choose 3 here, 1 here, 2 here. You could lower it down to 1, but yeah, it gets into rate of fires. And I just, I'm telling you, this is where I was like, oh my God. Hey, guess what suppression fire is? It's the same thing as spray fire, but you're keeping people's heads down. Okay, next.
Wait. I don't understand how you would do that. I mean, in every group, there's always going to be an idiot Rambo.
What do you mean?
You know, the guy who runs out in the middle of the field shooting from the hip, no matter what kind of thing is going on.
So I would give you a penalty for not being accurate because you're shooting from the hip, and then all the enemy would just aim at you.
But no, they're all using suppression fire. But I am not suppressed. I will not be suppressed.
Okay.
How is that enforced? Is what I'm asking. I mean, how is suppression fire enforced to actually be useful?
For example, you have full value of 5 shooting in a. This is just an enemy who comes into an area covered by suppression fire has a 20% chance to be struck. Really, it doesn't.
Okay, so it no one's aiming at you, and there's only a 20% chance you'll be hit. You know, the Rambo guys out there are going to look at those numbers and go, I don't care, and do it anyway.
This, to me, this is what I sometimes like crunchy games. I sometimes don't. This is one of those things that to me doesn't need to be written out as a rule. Oh, fair. It's only 3 paragraphs, but this is something you say, hey, GM, I'm going to use my spray fire to suppress people. And then the game master says, okay, I think what will happen in that case is if you roll 80% or better, they'll keep their heads down, or whatever you roll in your percentage. I'm just making up crap right now. I'm not saying these are the right rules that you should do. Whatever percentage you roll in the percentile dice, that's what the negative is for them because they're trying to take cover while, or avoid your shot, whatever. I can think of a whole ton of things that a game master could do. But yeah. Missiles and rockets have both direct fire mode and automated fire. The main difference between the two is range.
Okay.
Direct fire mode means you can aim it, and it has an accuracy listed for that. Automated mode means you don't necessarily aim it, you program it in, and then you use the auto accuracy for that. And it gives a long example here, which actually, again, it's a good example.
Well, no, it makes sense. I mean, you're either aiming at yourself or are you allowing a program to aim it for you? And, depending on your skill level, the program may or may not be better than you.
All right, Pigaskikas. We might still be on part 1. I don't know. But thank you for coming by.
Look, a more crunch rule. That's great.
What do you say? I love to see you guys do a book overview of Fantasy Flight games, Warhammer 40K. We tend to stay away from the really big games because there are already awesome channels that do that stuff. I mean, Arch does Warhammer. You've got all the 8,000 people that do D&D 5th edition. You got a bunch of Pathfinder. We tend to stay away from the popular ones, not because we don't necessarily like them, but there's nothing we can really add to the conversation. At least I don't feel we can. That's more crunch rule.
Sensor relays.
No, I'm not reading it. Grenades. Grenades have a more crunch rule too.
Oh, God damn it.
You throw a grenade here. Let's make it easy. You throw a grenade. If you throw it and the person's between 0 and 2 meters, person takes a lot of damage. Persons between 2 and 5 meters might take a little less damage depending on if you use the more crunch rule or not. Anything 2 meters closer suffers listed concussion damage. It's damage type T, which means your armor threshold isn't going to protect you from it. However, if you're behind hard cover, now it may. I say may. You'd think, well, he should have said it would. No, it may.
No, it may, because it also, the hardcover has to have a threshold rating equal to or higher than the average damage done by each, average damage done by each fragment.
Yep. And then there's fragment damage, and this is what'll get the more crunch rule here in just a moment.
Oh my God.
So if the grenade lands 5 meters closer to a target, roll D6 for each fragment. For each additional 5 meters of distance, pop out the, so this, remember the bumping
RLF type thing. Right?
Yeah, it's RFD or whatever it's called. Yeah. So a D12 means 50-50 chance you get hit by a fragment. And of course, fragments. Now here's kind of the more crunch. Oh no, I'm sorry. The more crunch is lose a frag. I forgot about that. Yeah. Look.
It makes sense, right? I mean, it is exploding outward, and all of the fragments are getting further and further apart. The more the explosion goes out. I get it. It's absolutely realistic. That's exactly what happens with grenades. I get it. but it's a game, dude.
You could have done this a little easier. I would have just combined it with this.
Yeah, you didn't need hit location and fragments lost. You don't need both of those mechanics. Both those mechanics are representing the same thing. The wider the explosion, the less densely packed the shrapnel is. We know. We get it. You don't need hit location die and fragments lost. Either one of those will satisfy that mechanic idea. Having both is just slowing the game down more.
So Crafty, he said at the beginning that he wasn't going to be able to stay for the whole thing, so it's okay. It doesn't count. Let's see. I don't disrespect the effort the designer made or respect where you're coming from, but this game did not hit the mark. Well, and that's the thing. This is a hard game, as I posted, I think, to you. This is a hard game to get people to want to play because of this. And 7th edition did its level best to make it easier and make you want to play it more. It's just the nature of this game is to be very crunchy. However, as Indigo Dragon said, 6th edition had the combat chapter of 12 pages.
Yeah.
Now
it was much more efficiently written.
Yeah, OGGM says, "Oh, so much math." Yeah.
Yeah.
Using multiple weapons. Characters may use 2 weapons simultaneously if they wish, dividing their actions as they desire between the 2 weapons. 2-armed characters suffer a negative modifier. All right, so what's the modifier? 2-armed species? Well, what if you're a 4-armed species and you want 4 actions?
Get a modifier if you use more than 2 weapons. Well, so apparently, if you have 4 arms, you can have 2 weapons, and the other 2 arms are like steadying.
No. There's still a negative 25.
Well, it says here 4-armed characters only suffer a negative to modifier if they opt to use more than 2 weapons.
Oh, okay. I honestly missed that. Okay.
This rule applies whether the character is engaged in ranged combat or melee combat.
And right here, the Fentari suffer no modifier when using 2 weapons simultaneously. Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Well, I'm glad because I honestly did not catch that when I read it through the first time. So good catch. Weapon malfunctions. As somebody who absolutely loves critical and fumble tables, adore them to death. At this point, the last thing I want to see is another chart I have to look at. When attacking with your weapons, if your attack roll exceeds the weapon's malfunction number, stop the attack immediately. I vaguely remember this being in the earlier editions. I might be wrong. Maybe I'm thinking of a different game.
No, it probably was, but that's,
I don't remember it coming up much.
The thing is about this whole armor section so far is any 1 or 2 of these mechanics is fine. But when you take them all and put them all together, it's too much realism. It's literally too much realism. It's supposed to be a game.
I will say, fun. Sorry, go on.
It doesn't seem like using all of these rules, combat would be fun still.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back when we played in the past. Combat was combat.
Yeah, I didn't like it
about
malfunction with my weapon. I had a bolt action rifle. Those things are like you can drop them in mud, you can drop them on the moon, they'll still fire, right? So it's fine. I never had a malfunction, but these malfunctions are pretty rough.
Yeah, and I mean it is, well, let's be fair, it is a kind of a grittier setting. It's not Starfinder, it's not Star Trek. Yeah. What I had something I wanted to say, and I want to make sure I say it right. I actually, as somebody who likes realism in my games, I actually like a lot of this stuff, but baby steps.
I know they do it all together, all at the same time. It's too much.
Instead of having something that Heathen Dog says is a mistake, like saying, hey, once you understand this, it's not that hard. Maybe this game should have said something at the beginning in bold letters. You don't have to use everything at one time.
Yes.
Get used to the parts you like, then add in more. Or start, I don't want to call them optional rules because then you get into the fights of like, well, I like optional rules. I hate optional rules. But say, hey, how about this? Basic combat, advanced combat. Oh, wait, this book does that and we're still in the basic combat.
Are you kidding me?
Kind of. Not. They mix it up. But say, this is what you do for simplified gameplay. Very simplified. This is what you do. Start adding this stuff in when you and your group are ready for it. Because, I mean, none of this is bad. it's just, this is why I had a problem reading the chapters. Like, okay, I have to remember to talk about this. I remember after what I want to say. I have to remember what I want to say about that. I have to remember what I want to say about this next thing. Now, while you're in the middle of combat, you have to make an aggression check.
Why?
Whenever there's a chance a character may panic or fly into a rage, the GM may require that the character makes an aggression check. Typical situations where the GM may require an aggression check include being taunted by an opponent. Okay, there's an MMO for you. Sustaining injury. What else? If
facing loss of body points or a critical hit, you can lose 1 body point and have to roll aggression check. Get out.
Well, maybe if you're Mutsukin. You got like 2 body points total. Yeah. Severely frustrated. All right. Facing down an enemy charge. Okay.
Okay. Now, hang on. I am really, really against player agency. You know that. But I find myself in a strange situation where I don't like this because I'm telling the player how their character feels. Yes, Alien does it better with stress mechanic. Hell, Chaosium does it better with insanity. But this right here just feels like I'm forcing an emotional state down the player's throat. And while I don't want the player to dictate the tempo of the game, I don't want to dictate what the character feels. You can feel however you want to feel. But
it is aggression is an attribute you roll in the game.
I know it is an attribute, and I get it, but this just seems so heavy-handed.
So, I do not 100% agree with this. Generally speaking, yes, but sometimes I see DMs that oversimplify it so much it's not even combat; it's just dice rolls. Like, why don't we just roll once to see who wins? I've actually seen stuff like that happen. But generally speaking, yes, the faster the combat is, the more you keep people engaged, the better it is.
Right.
This will combat purists and people who want simulation and people who really love to just put together all the math are going to like this. And I really feel like I'm dogging this game. Damn it, I like Battlelords. At least I did in the past. I really do. I want more people to play Battlelords, but it's hard to convince people to do it. Yeah, and now you see why.
Yeah, they'll get halfway through this book and go, no.
I mean, how heavy is the book? It's like 75 pounds. I have to do a workout routine just to lift it. So, yeah, anyway, you've got morale, you've got going berserk. Now, these are all part of the same thing. These aren't like completely, oh my God, unrelated, whatever. But
the really cool thing about the aggression check, that if you fail it, you can panic or freeze. But if you make it by too much, you'll become suicidal. Like, yes. Come on, man. There's not even a win and a loss. There's a win. Oh, no, you won too much.
Yep.
So I have to penalize you for that because now you're going full Rambo.
No, OGGM, there are actually some really good videos about this game. It might be for this edition, but there are some really good. And thing is, the creators of this game probably hate me. But I mean, I have to call it like I see it.
Unfortunately, they hate me more.
Yeah. I hope so, because I don't like when people hate me. All right, environmental condition rolls. Our old SMRs, now ECRs. Now, we'll slow down here a little bit. And part of the reason is because I literally didn't read this part.
Okay.
These are your saving throws.
Yes.
ECRs are your saving throws for the game. So
we saw it earlier in character generation. There's biological, there's radiation, all that stuff that if you're experiencing this environmental event, depending on what species you are, you'll have a greater resistance or a greater vulnerability to that specific environmental event. And this is now what we're getting into.
Wow. It was the FOD invasion. I don't know what to tell you. So what was I going to say? Oh, no, I want to follow up with one thing. So the next game we're doing is Castles and Crusades, 8th printing. And then I don't know for sure, but after that, unless Heathen Dog really insists on doing a game, I have an idea of what I want to do after that. What I'm scared of is it's too close to Castles and Crusades, but we'll see.
Okay.
So anyway, ECR checks, armor with 0 integrity. If any armor section has its structural integrity reduced to 0, the character may no longer substitute the armor's ECRs. So if you have a rebreather, let's say you have a helmet, it's got a rebreather, right? And that helm is reduced to 0.
What's broken?
The rebreather's not working.
No, the air is getting in, man.
Yep. So if you're on the Fentari, if you're a human standing on the Fentari homeworld,
bye. You're dead. I mean, that is a big problem I have with this game and character selection. I really have that problem because mostly like Star Wars and Star Trek, they got around that by making most species breathe the same atmosphere and have the same gravity, and everyone can basically live on everybody else's planet to one degree or another. There are, of course, exceptions they made for plot purposes or whatever, but in this game, you can literally have 4 different characters with 4 different environmental must-haves, and they all have to wear environmental gear when going into battle on this specific planet. What? I don't like it.
So I want to keep this on the screen here for just a second. Remember Mark McKinnon when we did Bessem?
Yep.
He came in and we had a whole segment about him. He was talking about his game in chat and so forth. We realized who it was. All of a sudden we're like, what the heck? Mark McKinnon came in, man. He gave, I mean, we didn't blast that game. Actually, we kind of enjoyed it, I think. I mean, I don't, but we had some comments about it, like ability score or attributes and stats and so forth. And he came in, he held his own, but that I respect that. I'm not saying that these guys are cowards. No, I haven't even reached out to him. But then again, I didn't reach out to Mark McKinnon either. I am not disparaging these creators at all, but I think that is a very good comment. With all the votes we got for the game, you'd think at least one of them would have came in here and said, okay, guys, let's have a conversation about some of this. Maybe we'll do that at the end. I don't know, but All right. So ECR is denoted as impervious, a life form or armored suit that with the dude, I cannot talk today. A life form or armored suit with the impervious notation next to its ECR will be unaffected by any attack or condition that requires the target to make an ECR of that type. I think that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, like if you're specifically in a radiation suit, until the structural integrity of that radiation suit is compromised, you're immune to radiation. I get it. Same thing for a biohazard suit. If it's built specifically for that element or that environment, then it will be impervious to that environment. It makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't put on a radiation suit that was only mostly effective. No, man, I'm going to get a radiation suit that's 100% effective if I'm going into a Chernobyl situation. That's how it works. Right. So I get it. That's nice.
Sorry, modern Fukushima.
Sorry. I didn't want to bust on your wife's people.
I sent her there to get superpowers and she didn't come back with any.
Well, that's a waste.
I know. When the attack calls for an ECR check, a shorthand notation. This is the shorthand.
No.
No, I got to stop bagging on that. There's nothing wrong with this at all, especially when you have that much information that you have to give. I mean, the OSR, to be fair, it does the same thing. When you have a creature and it talks about, a level alignment, hit points, blah, 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 blah. So there's literally nothing wrong with this. Pardon me if we seem we're going overboard on the negativity. We're not. We're kind of making fun of ourselves as well. But yeah, you roll your ECRs. So you remember in character creation section, you have the ECRs for your character, effectively saving throws. You get bonuses and minuses based on what the weapon is and or what your race is and species and or what armor you're wearing. So just remember, if you're going to go into the frigid Fentari or Eridani worlds, wear your winter coat. Yeah, you need your winter coat. Delay. Sometimes this is like being poisoned.
Right. Sometimes
poisons don't affect you right away.
Or radiation, in low enough doses, it won't affect you for up to a week,
He said, Connor Diaz says, my wife is from the other Asian country. There are lots of them. The other one, Pakistan?
Well, no, if you start with Japan and you're an American and you say
the K word.
The other one, it's usually China or Korea.
She yelled at me. All right, so you can look at this, what they do, and so forth. Common ECR effects. Enslave. That's going to get some people angry. Can't use that word anymore.
You can.
This is usually the result of matrix space. So, what do you like to call matrix? Space magic.
Yeah, space magic.
This is usually the result of space magic. I like that term, space magic. Actually, no, the one you coined the most, and I'm actually using it in a third game I'm not writing, but started writing a long, long, long time ago, was quantum magic.
Oh, yeah.
So, but this is usually the result of space magic-based attack. Victims of the enslave effect must make a mental ECR with the listed penalty. Failure indicates victims will do whatever the attacker requests. Heathen Dogs player agency right there.
There it is.
Short of suicide.
Short of suicide. There you go. Yep.
So it's just like the command spell, just you can use more than one word.
Right. Drop your weapon and run away. Okay. And then you just shoot him in the back. That's fine.
There you go. I've had DMs say no to stuff like that. Well, the character would know he's going to get shot in the back, so he's not going to run away.
No, it doesn't matter, but he's compelled to run away. It doesn't matter if he's screaming inside his skull, trying to beat his way out of his own brain. I'm going to get shot in the back. It doesn't matter. He has no control over his own body at this point.
Oh, okay, China, I got you. Okay. A language I wanted to learn as a kid and realized it was too hard for me to. So I took Russian. Paralysis. Okay, let's go down here. Treating radiation sickness. Can we just have a medical section? Can we just put this in the medical section, please? Just saying. Deafen flash. I mean, now the good news is, I mean, all these things are things that can happen.
Yes.
But without reading these, can it just say if you're deaf, you get plus 20 to your attack or some crap? Do we need all this? Well, let's find out. Any very loud noise can potentially deafen characters. And aren't Scissorax supposed to have like a negative 5,000? They took that out of the game. Who must make a sensory ECR at the listed penalty to avoid hearing loss. Failure indicates you're hearing, but we already know this. You've already described how to make a roll. I mean, but specifically it's saying, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. Failure indicates your hearing modifier is reduced by the listed amount. All right. Wow, if you roll double Zod, it's permanent. I hate that double Zod term. All right. Medical technology and wound recovery. You can get shot. Do we want to cover this week?
Well, we may as well. We're going to go over it. I mean,
Fair enough.
let's go. While it's still true that you never hear the bullet that's got your number on it, the Grim Reaper has to work a lot harder in 23rd century. A proper medical facility can regenerate any body part or organ in a matter of days or even hours. In addition, a soldier on the battlefield can be placed in cryogenic stasis, the hat box, with a simple injection. Combined with Zen Regelan medical technology, which can grow you an entire new body from the neck down, death becomes an inconvenience as long as you don't get shot in the head. Or have a suit of ultra armor stomp on your head. Or have a ram sit on your head. Probably just best to get a really good helmet. Yes. Okay. Fair enough. Get a really good helmet. Body rehabilitation injection. Blessed be the BRI. Okay. Perhaps the greatest piece of medical technology ever developed by any species. Regenerate and repair lost or damaged tissues. Massive doses of BRIs can be used to jumpstart a recently killed soldier from the dead. Usually the first thing a resuscitated grunt hears is sergeant yelling, "I did not give you permission to die." All right. So there are injections that are the fast and dirty. It'll bring you back from the brink of death, and it'll heal wounds, but it won't regrow limbs or anything like that. You have to go into an actual hospital type situation, or at least a triage center to get your body and organs and stuff like that back. But just your generic damage, a BRI will do it. Now it does have a BRI overdose. So if you take too many BRIs, you can have a negative effect. Well, it's a drug. You take too many of any drug, there you go. Tremors, because taking additional BRIs after you have overdose exacerbates deterioration of soldier's body. Getting the shakes is grounds for removal from combat duty on medical grounds. I believe that. That's good.
Where are you? Sorry, I've been doing a lot with chat. So
that's fine. That's fine. I'm at the combat for a BRI overdose. If the character takes 2 BRIs or 1 MBRI, which I assume is mega BRI, I don't know what that is because it didn't explain that to me yet. I don't think. What the hell's an MBRI?
You're taught in technical writing. The first time you mention any term, you always word it out completely.
Oh, there it is. Nope,
then you use the acronym.
Right here, I see it.
Oh.
First, a massive dose BRI or MBRI is required to heal critical injuries, anything on the critical hit table.
Before or after you read it right here.
MBRIs do not realign bones before healing the wound. So if you don't reset the bones before getting an MBRI, you're gonna have to break it again later on. But the overdose, first you get the shakes, and then after that, you lose a point of constitution, you start losing mental and defense, constitution loss, strength loss. Don't just keep injecting yourself with BRIs all day. You are not, a juicer. You're not going to handle it. 1 a day, probably fine. When you go 2, that's when it gets weird.
So this another example of not the game's problem, but a sci-fi problem. I mean, look, weekly recovery rate, and you've got all these little hospital. Like, well, it depends. What's the tech level of your hospital?
Right.
Makes perfect sense. I don't know what the answer is off the top of my head. Because I'm not writing a sci-fi game, but there's got to be a way to not do this. So and I want to backtrack. Somebody made a comment a moment. Oh, somebody said Dead Red Herring said he's actually thinking about getting this game. That's great. Honestly, I want this game to get love. And if there's something you guys can post in a chat to tell me how we can entice you to say that no, really, this game can be fun, put it in the chat. Because I don't know what to do. Because believe it or not, the reason we're covering this game, I'm not going to speak for Heathen Dog, but at least for me, is because I want the word of this game to get out there. It's just the more I read it, the more I'm like, I don't know why though anymore.
It's kind of like my fascination with Jerry O'Connell. In my heart, I believe that Jerry O'Connell is an excellent actor. It's just that I can't prove it.
Point to anything that says it is.
I can't prove it.
Wasn't a bad talk show host.
This game is very similar to that. I believe this is a good game. I can't prove it.
Well, you played it.
I'm talking 7th edition.
I've played it. Oh, fair, and neither of us have actually played 7th edition.
So I can't prove it. I can't.
Okay. We want you, but hey, maybe if Dead Red Herring gets it, he can tell us where we're stupid.
There you go.
So we got recovery time, cryo injection. I got to be honest, dude. We got to read the hat box because at least that'll be some comedy.
That'll be something. Hat box. There it is.
But I can't do it.
Okay, here it is. The ability of the Zen to repair. Nope, not both Zen. Right?
No, it's just the Zen Regel.
Exactly. So
not the Zen, but they go by Zen. So it's the Zazen and the Zen.
To repair injuries is probably best summed up by Standing Alliance Military Order A-8-61B-2, which the grunts call the Save the Head Order. The order states that if a soldier is so seriously injured that his body is destroyed or his body cannot be recovered for whatever reason, medical personnel are to cryo the head and bring it back for body regrowth. That's right. Given the proper medical facilities, a Zen can regrow a new body from the neck down. The process of saving the head is facilitated by a device which is placed over the head of the injured character or soldier. A cryo injection is administered and then the grunt is decapitated. The device then seals itself and can be carried back to base with a convenient handle. Thanks for the handle. Alliance soldiers refer to it as the hat box, despite the fact that it probably saves tens of thousands of lives. Military personnel do not view the device with much affection. No, I imagine they wouldn't, because you have to cut off the head of your friend. Well, hold on. Okay, but I cut off the head of my friend.
I don't want to see those things because that tells me, there's about to be some problems. Just like if you were to walk by, hey, we're about to start our mission. Hey, Heathen Dog, you're going to go out there and you're going to guard the gate and you're standing next to like 10 body bags. You probably don't want to do that. At the same time, at least with the hat box, you can say, God, I really hope I don't need that thing, but thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being a friend.
It's not the person who gets the hat box that hates the hat box.
Yeah, fair.
It's the people who have to administer the hat box that's psychologically troubling.
Yeah. Wow. Decapitated you. I'm telling you, I can't talk today. Decapitated you to heal you.
That's it. Yeah. To save someone's life, you have to cut their head off. It's counterintuitive. OGGM, so it's less expensive to regrow a grunt than just to train one. Yeah,
probably. Well, in BattleTech,
Battlelord, yeah.
In BattleTech, there is like what in 31st century, life is cheap, but battle mechs aren't.
Yeah.
We didn't care if you died.
Same thing with Macross, because Veritech pilots took months and months and months to train. So losing a mech is a lot better than losing a pilot.
Oh, that's like Germany in World War II.
Yeah. So a battle lord is like a commando. You know, it takes months or years to train a battle lord. So if you can save his head and regrow his body, it's actually cheaper than training a new battle lord.
I got to move on because I'm going to make a comment that nobody wants me to make. So let's move on.
Okay. Decapitation blues. Really? Do you have to even have a section on that? Yes, I was decapitated. Now I'm sad. I get it. Shut the hell up.
You mean I'm dead equivalent? That, by the way, this is a running joke in this game. It's okay. This is actually kind of funny if you do the Battlelord stuff because everything's equivalent. At least it was in earlier editions. No matter what you had, it was like, I have my key equivalent. I'm going to drive my car equivalent. Everything was. It was kind of a running joke for the game. So this, for Battlelords fans, this is kind of funny.
Okay.
Irretrievably dead. Okay, you can keep going. You're doing a good job. I can't read. I can't talk.
Yeah, read it. Okay. Irretrievably dead. Without a cryo injection to preserve them in their current state, a soldier at or below their death's door has a limited amount of time during which they may be resuscitated or have their head and brain salvaged. A dead character can last a number of combat rounds equal to their con multiplied by 3 before they are irretrievably dead. After that, the character can neither be resuscitated or, assuming their head is intact, have their head attached to a newly grown body. It's always best to provide medical attention or cryo as soon as possible. Well, thank you for the PSA. Appreciate it.
I mean, a lot of games have rules like that.
I mean, like I said here, the example has a con of 40, and he'll last 120 combat rounds. That's a long time. He should be okay as long as you have a hat box.
This. Yes, it's not the author's fault. It's the editor's fault because authors are just supposed to get crap out there. The editors are supposed to fix it. But then
streamline. Yep.
Yeah. They're called Chitillions. Oh no, Zen. I'm sorry, the Zenragellan, not the Chitillions. The Zenragellan.
Yep.
The Zenragellan. That's their job. Their space magic is healing. So.
Yep. And they're extreme pacifists. Well, the mainline ones anyway are extreme pacifists. So they're just gonna be medics.
So the main enemies in this universe are some spider people that aren't actually now spider people anymore. They're spider people plus. And was it, what are they called? The Antarans? Whatever. They're the replicators from Stargate.
Okay. And they do not have the hat in a box type.
They don't need stuff. It. They're replicators.
Yeah, the replicators don't need it because they just replicate.
As far as the spider people go, I don't know.
Spider people, I don't think they have it either. No, I think only the Battlelords have this.
Through 6 editions of the game, they're called the Arachnids. Now they actually have a race name, Arakin or something. I don't know. All right, let's talk about the cost. Let's skip some of this stuff. People can read charts. I just don't care anymore. I'm sorry. And I'm not trying to be disparaging. It's not about the game. It's about keeping this less than 8 hours as we're talking. But the cost of resuscitation, being killed and resuscitated is hard on your body. Make your system shock roll. Each time a character is resuscitated, the con is permanently reduced by 1d6 points.
That's okay. I mean, it's percentile, so okay. And with 1 rank in the physical fitness skill, you could get that back.
Yeah, and on top of that, I would expect Battlelords are probably going to go down. I mean, they're pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
So I could see this happening. But also just remember all the time frames. You got 3 rounds, you've got to have a hat box, you've got to have your Zenragellan ready to actually do his business, you know.
I didn't read anywhere where it said how long a head can be cryoed in the hat box before it dies. It didn't say.
Mark Hockman.
You could have that forever.
I thought it said earlier, but maybe not. Like again, all the numbers in crunch of this game have started to fall out of my ear. It's something this would be a game I'd have to reference. Modern dog tags contain more than your name, rank, and serial number. In addition, what about your religion? In addition, the soldier's entire genetic code is recorded.
Super.
Well, thanks. In the event a soldier loses a limb or needs a new body grown, it can be built from scratch. Okay. I want those dog tags.
That's great.
Memory backups. Now we're getting to like transhumanism.
Yeah, I thought you had to save the head.
The way a human being behaves is as much dependent on the structure of its brain than on than it is on memories that chemically encode it. The patterns and construction, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to read this whole thing. In order to back up your memories, a facility grows an exact copy of your brain. Okay. Wouldn't that actually be like another life, just without a body wrapped around it? Shouldn't that be the same as the thought? Brains have actual function. It just so happens you took the function away by not giving it a spinal cord and limbs. That brain's sitting there going, I'm just a brain. Memory backups are too cost prohibitive for the Alliance military to provide them to combat personnel, though special forces sometimes get them, Battlelords. Growing you a new body is one thing, but paying to store a second brain for years at a time is another proposition. Don't lose your head. Lose your head and you're dead.
Oh, the Matrix-based memory backup is a whole Star Trek 2 thing.
Religion died when the aliens showed up.
Star Trek 2, Star Trek 3 type going on here. Because
is
another
it?
option for getting your memories backed up is to have a Chitillion use the copy memory pattern matrix. Then the docs can grow you a new body from your genetic records, and if you're lucky, the asparagus head can dump you back into your new body. Because your body's being built from scratch, you can expect the worst case of decapitation blues in medical history. In fact, no one is really sure if you'll be the same as you were prior to your demise, or if you'll be a different person. Have fun wrapping your head around that one. This is very much like the whole Spock Bones thing. Like before Spock died, he dumped a copy of his memory into Bones.
Mm-hmm.
And then when his body was regrown, he went back to Vulcan. They were taken back to Vulcan, and Spock's memories were dumped back into his new body.
Remember.
Boom. New Spock, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
You know what I like about this rule? This is a perfectly written role-playing game rule. Do you know why I say that?
Why do you say that?
Well, first of all, it tells you what it is. Another option for getting memories back. So the Chitillion uses an ability. Okay.
Yep.
Docs can grow you. Okay. All of this is, yep. And then it gives the feel of the game by calling them asparagus heads.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I'm one of those people that says everything should just be facts, nothing but the facts, man. But this gives the feel of the game. And then it says what could possibly happen. But you know what it doesn't do? Doesn't demand anything.
No.
It just says this is here. It doesn't say you have to give, well, now instead of a 1d6, it's a 1d20.
Nope. It doesn't give you more rules. It just gives the game master, a hint that this is going to be bad. They're going to wake up and they're going to be all angsty and teenage girl wearing black all the time for a little while.
Ice cream.
That was meant to be offensive. Teenage girls wearing black. Get over it.
Do anybody do that anymore?
I don't know.
Or does anyone? So, and I'm not saying the entire book should be written like this, but I'm just saying for this instance, this is exactly how probably a lot of these other ones here should have been done as well. Because now as the game master, I get to make the decision. It's my freaking game. Yep. Tell me what the range categories are and what I have to roll. Yeah, by all means, do that. Now, okay, anyway, yeah. I'm not going to beat a dead horse.
The rest of it is now we're into armored suits. Mech, basically, small mech.
Well, we'll do this starting next week.
Okay.
Because what we're going to do is starting... Oh, hold on. We'll spend a little bit of time on this one next week, but pretty much this, through all of the equipment, we're just going to breeze through, talk about some examples and so forth, and that's it. We're not going to go into everything. The main thing to take out of the armor thing that you'll find out next week is I'm hoping it doesn't take 7 hours to redo your armor like it did in previous editions. This was my number one gripe of previous editions of the game, was the armor. But I'm not being convinced when I look at all this.
No, we're looking at this. All of the different areas have their own structural integrity and their own absorption rating, and it's bad.
Yeah, but apparently, and one of the things that's been lauded about this version of the game is that they've really simplified this. We'll see.
I'm not seeing it yet, but we will find out next week.
And then we'll go over the equipment and whatnot, because one of the things that I cannot wait to get to, and I mean this in all seriousness, I don't even know what page it's on, space combat. This is a science fiction game, and it's never been written into a Battlelords game previously. Like, wow. So I cannot wait to see how they do space combat. That's not going to be for a couple weeks, but there you go, spacecraft, boom.
Yeah, so the thing is, though, the way Battlelords is built, it's built for ground combat. I mean, the whole thing is built around ground combat. So having space combat is very much like having a rigger or a decker from Shadowrun. You know, like now the game is just about you, and everyone else can go have a smoke. You know, like that's it. Because for the next hour, it's going to be you in a computer or you driving a tank, and everyone else is just a passenger in their own life now. So how do they get around that? Do they get around that? Well, I'd love to find out.
I liked your analogy of the Starship Troopers one that you gave me yesterday. Where you said this game is like Starship Troopers. Nobody cared about,
right, yeah.
there are no space battles except for,
Yeah.
bombardment.
I mean, the Starship Troopers movie, there were no battles, ship versus ship combat, because the bugs didn't have ships. So there was no reason to have ship to ship combat rules if you made a Starship Troopers game.
But it was an evil bug planet.
It only good bug's a dead bug.
Yes, even in real life. All right. Well, that's segment one, and I don't know. I'm feeling kind of dirty about this because I want to talk up this game, and I feel like we're shitting on it more than talking it up.
Hey, you know what? I haven't lied.
No, I need
during this, so I feel good about myself.
Yeah. I want people to like Battlelords. When I say I played Battlelords, and I played at every con that I go to. Anyway, yeah. Oh, they stole my goo gun. Dude, they stole my goo gun.
What do you mean?
Share screen. Share. My champions character.
Goo. Yeah.
That's my champions.
Immobilizer Goo, Neuro Goo. Yep.
This is my champions character.
Yes, it is. Yes, well, we played Champions briefly many decades ago, and he had a gun which had several settings
of different types of goo.
All different types of goo to immobilize, paralyze, short circuit, whatever. He had a goo for it, and apparently they have goo guns here too.
Yeah. My character was based off of Necron 99 from the Ralph Bakshi Wizards movie, except for I had a cannon on my arm that shot goo, or on my shoulder. Okay, well that was I don't know how
you know
I
what?
feel.
That was Battlelords. That was it. You know, that's all we got to do. That's all we got to say. In summary,
we have to say more.
We believe that armor could have been simplified. Too many layered mechanics that basically mean the same thing.
Simplified by one.
Yes.
We kind of disagree. I wouldn't say disagree. We both have different ideas as to which one that could be.
How to fix it and what is really the problem, but the problem is there.
All this stuff I forgot to do at the beginning.
That's fine.
And I don't think we ever put up the segment one frame either. All right.
Well, no, we might have, but I've done this a lot.
And that's where we'll end this segment. Hey, Max, when you're getting this later for the highlight, clip it here.